she gives
Here she
us.
goes.
Good morning. Let's call the meeting to order, please. Today is Tuesday, it's June 26th. We're here at the Civic Center for our monthly meeting. If we would, we'll stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. McLaughlin. Here. Miss Albright.
Here.
Mayor Kathy.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Putnam.
Here.
I don't have anything at this time. Council member?
I don't have anything.
Neil?
Nope.
Fine. Okay. Moving to citizens' comments. I think everyone sort of knows the routine. If we have any citizens' comments at this time? You see?
In the front corner, the guy right there.
Okay, just come to the podium, name, address.
Thanks, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim Paulson. I have a piece of property on Canal Parkway. Maybe you've noticed that strange house going up on the big corner there next to the lift station. So Bonnie, my wife, and I are very excited to move here as your newest permanent residents from a long time banging around the world and most recently Virginia. About 10 years ago, we were a little apprehensive of buying that piece of property because of the lift station, not the view of it, but the smell of it. Asking around to include the environmental folks of Florida down in Panama City and then Nell here and other folks around the city, we were under the impression that it was okay to build because it's not going to be a problem in the long run. That smell could be contained with expensive chemicals. I want to say over the 10 years that we've seen you do wonderful things here along the canal and also the new boat launch ramp. It's just fantastic. Our excitement builds every day with the exception of the fact that we smell that lift station every day. So the latest that I got of a fix was that you could fix that with fixing the reattaching apparently some broken flanges. I was looking forward to that being done in the near future, but I'm becoming less and less enamored with that prospect because everybody I talk to says, well, don't hold your breath, it's not going to happen. So at this point, all I can do is implore you to do whatever is in your power to do to try to fix that lift station because, as I'm led to believe, it is fixable. Right now, if you go out there, the wind is from the east, you won't smell it where I live or where I'm going to live because we're right now living in a campground in Tyndall Air Force Base. But I guarantee you that when the wind comes from the west, it is not a pretty smell. That's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. I just ask for your support and see that we can maybe get this problem fixed. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Is that something we have looked into? Okay. Are we addressing what we can do?
Years ago, the city had the order at MX1 down to near about nothing, and Mary and Kevin have been digging back in the records to try to get us an estimate on what it would cost, and our best estimate, as of right now, it would cost somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 a year to keep that smell down to zero.
Okay. Can you give us some documentation of that and something that we can maybe present it as a item for consideration?
Yes, sir, we can. What we've got is the old purchase recs from when the sewer used to purchase that stuff. We can get those.
Okay. Is that agreeable?
Sure, we can look
I mean,
at
just
it.
to look at that and see
Can
what,
look at it.
just so we'll have something to see what we're
Yeah.
discussing.
Doesn't
Okay.
hurt to look.
All right, next is there any more citizens' comments? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the meeting from June 12th. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Any opposition to the consent agenda? Let the record reflect vote 5-0. We have Resolution 2018-05. Do I have a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any opposition to reading?
No.
Mr. Clerk, please do so.
Resolution 2018-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida regarding final plat approval for the Ocean View subdivision and providing for an effective date.
Your Honor, before we go forward, we'd like to respectfully pull this off the agenda. The
Okay.
repairs to that subdivision have been made, but we have yet to review the camera that goes into the pipes to make sure that they're fixed adequately. So we are faced with waiting for another couple of weeks before this gets approved. So if you want to do as we suggested last time, approve this conditioned on the fact that we would only allow that to go forward, successful completion of those reviews, and of course your signatures on the final plat, or wait 2 weeks.
I prefer to wait.
I prefer to wait.
I'm fine. I mean, they can't do anything without the approval.
All right.
I'm fine with it.
Me too.
Me too.
All right, so is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-05? Maybe I didn't know what me too meant. Me too meaning,
Wait 2 weeks.
Wait two.
okay, so there's no motion then to adopt. Okay. All right, moving on to so from, just for clarification, what we did last 2 weeks ago, there's no change, and we brought it back to see if there'd been a change in this table's opinion because it hasn't been verified that it's fixed. Is that right? Is that why it's on here?
It's on there because we thought we were gonna have time to look at that footage before today. We
Okay.
had it on the agenda, and yesterday they hadn't got it to us yet.
Okay,
That's why.
got you covered. Thank you. All right, other business. Fire department funding, first one on there, city clerk.
I'm first up. All right. As we know from the outcome of the Bay County meeting, they are not going to be taking our department, which leaves us finding a way to fund this department for next year. We have talked assessment, we've talked millage, we've talked numerous different things. We're getting to the end of our timeline where our consulting group and the property appraiser and tax collector need an answer of what we're going to do. So I'm just seeking direction of how we're going to proceed with it.
I suggest another workshop.
I think that we assessed them at, what was it, 79% last year because it was not a full year. So my suggestion is to assess them at the full amount because it will be a new year. And I think we just need to go to a tax assessment because if we put it on the millage rate, our millage rate is already the highest, if not near the highest, if not the highest in Bay County. And if anybody is trying to sell their property, that would be a downer for a lot of people. So I think that we should just go with the tax assessment at the full rate since it will be a full year.
I agree. I don't think we have a whole lot of time to have to really look at this before we go into our July meetings to start putting a budget together. I think there was time that I wanted to split it half and half. The only reason that I'm not really in favor of putting it on well, two reasons. One, Linda did, but other reasons I'm not really interested in putting it on our tax bill as such I'm a newbie, I've only been here 11 years, but over that period of time, I've watched, for whatever reasons, good and bad, our fire department not really fully funded. And by making an assessment, we do fund our fire department. We do assure our citizens, our businesses, that they will get the services that they need. And frankly, anyone again coming in to buy, they know what they have. They won't have to guess year to year. Right now, I think assessment needs to be there because we're going to be on a, 2 or 3 year period that they will be watching us to see that we're doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, we'll have to make a decision before we're even closed out the date of September 11th, so they'll know what's going on with our existing year. And that was our initial plan, but how we fund it is up to you guys.
What's the percentage that's been paid? of the assessment?
81.25.
81?
Once it goes on the tax bill, they collect it 95% though, because it just comes as a separate line item. And it'll say fire assessment, similar to Bay County's MSTU, but instead of saying MSTU, it'll say Mexico Beach Fire Assessment. And it'll just be a separate line item on their taxes. They'll see what they're paying and where it's going.
So if we go with the tax assessment, it will still be on your tax bill, but it will not be part of the millage rate.
No, it'll be a separate line.
Separate line item, but not, okay. So we don't have to deal with the funds coming in here, the county takes care of that.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
just give us a check
okay.
like they do with the millage.
Okay. I think, I respect your wishes for a workshop, but we've talked about this, we've had a workshop. I'm not, in my mind, I can't think of anything else we
Let me
would
clarify,
say.
if we're not going to do a workshop and we're gonna discuss it here, I think everyone knows that I did not favor the type of assessments that were rendered back when we went to the program that we adopted in terms of, and I didn't favor that because of the inequities. And since that time, I have researched, talked to the property appraiser's office, I've given a lot of thought to, if we're gonna have equal service, I can't understand why we wouldn't have equal pay. We're asking people, the inequities in the assessments doesn't give those that pay more, they get the same trucks, they get the same firemen, they get the same equipment. We're in a unique position here. We're a small community, and when we start dividing ourselves into groups, it's when we're looking for the same service. It doesn't matter if you're a $300 pay assessment or if you're a $3,000 pay assessment, you get the same service. I cannot imagine that it would be that anyone in this community would think that others should pay 7, 8, 9 times more for the exact same service that the fire department is going to give this community. My recommendation is that we take the budget, we reduce the amount by the vacant lots, whatever that number was, we reduce that budget by the number of amount of money that's received from the unincorporated areas that will be coming to us from Bay County. And we take the parcels that will be serviced by the fire department and divide it into that number. That is truly equal pay for equal service. This thing of a rental house, which is nothing more than a business, being grouped into a residential property at $300 a year, where the guy across the street, because he's got a brick and mortar store, is paying up to 7 or 8, in some cases 10 times that, so that he, just because he's a commercial business. There's not going to be extra trucks coming to that fire.
Okay.
Pam forgot to put out the sign.
No, that's there.
But my point is that if we want to, I can defend fair and just. I can't defend where the inequities of those that pay are getting the same service for, I mean, just think about it, a rental house in a non-homesteaded property, which is the largest category of properties in our city, non-homesteaded. A guy that rents his house, in order to pay his assessment, has to go up $1 a day for his fire system. Across the street, there's a brick and mortar store that has to find a way to increase his profit up to 7, 8, 9 times that to pay for the exact same service. I don't think our community, I think they would embrace that we all pay for the same service. And that's what I have a problem with. That's just simply not the way it's set up.
My question is, why would some businesses pay more? Probably because they require more service than my house does.
Well, so the only difference is based on which method we choose, and so if we go millage, then everyone will pay based off millage, but when we looked at government services, the recommendation basically came down to the fact that it's historical demand for calls, and that's where the issue comes in, is you look at your residential call volume, and you have to divide, you know, that percentage into the budget, which is 80%, then you look at your commercial call volume, and you have to divide that into whatever percentage of the budget, and that's what drives the commercial rate up. So if we don't want to do it that way, my understanding is, which I'm not an expert, would be to go millage based, and then it wouldn't be that way. That's just
Chief
what
Simmons,
they're telling
Chief
us.
Simmons, the fallacy in that thinking is that you're using a residential property that is truly a business.
Yes, sir.
A person that rents their home and derives income from that is being treated the same as a homesteaded property for a citizen that lives here 365 days a year. That is a distinct fallacy in your proposal, because we are ignoring the community that we serve, and we are serviced by many, many non-homesteaded rental properties. And we're treating them the same. We're just taking us 51 that are sitting out here because we have a brick and mortar store, and we're saying, well, you have to, this is what you have to pay for. We're just ignoring the guy across the street that has that same income potential in a different form, but he's zoned residential.
Yes, sir. I understand. I was
That
just
can't be fair. That can't be what we need when we collect funds for the fire department for a specific cause. We get a specific service, and we somehow find justification that there should be these inequities in what's paid. That is historically not more, because you don't count the rental houses in the data that is used to support commercial.
yes, sir.
Okay? You don't do that.
I have to say, maybe I was confused when we started, because I thought it was a methodology that we would use to acquire the funds needed for the department. Truly, I expect that we would have a meeting that would probably be involved with our meeting for putting together a budget as to address any deficiencies, any inequities, as far as how within that method of collecting the money we would actually apply. The idea that a business would take as much as a residence, in most cases, they're going to take more. Most of our businesses in town do involve our tourists that come in. It's not like a house that has 3 or 4 people or 5 people in it. Unfortunately, many of our businesses, and I wish them well and they would have more, have a lot of people in them. Some of them are multi-story. Some of them store more items in the businesses that are more flammable, that are in the normal household. Whether that household is treated like a business or is a business or isn't. There are some reasons I think businesses probably would have to pay more. How much more? I don't know. That probably is one that we could treat in another meeting. However, my statement is I think I'd rather see it as an assessment instead of an ad valorem, if we need to talk about it later. I think we all agreed at one time there are some inequities in how this was put across. It's the first year that we went through this, and I think there is potential to look at the percentages we charge, how we charge, in looking at this towards our budget. But
So are we looking for a decision today on, are we going to assess or we're gonna put it on the millage rate? Is that all, is that what we're looking for?
I'd like to get started, but we do have a little bit of time.
What's a little?
I actually just got that message.
For those people in the
We need
crowd
to,
out here that wasn't here, how did we arrive at this situation? I think we had an expert that dealt with this. Could you explain that briefly?
And that's what I was saying. I was following GSG's recommendations, and that's where they used the historical demand. I don't, we hired them as the expert to try to follow their legal advice, and I was just relaying their historical demand methodology that she explained to me. She knows much more about it to me, says it had to be that way. So I'm following her recommendations. As far as what is chosen to do, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. Whatever you think is more fair, I agree with completely. I just know what's needed to fund it to fix this solution, and I'm following her recommendation as the expert, and I don't know of another company to follow that seems as fair. So I'm just relaying her information, and if we can get her back in here, I've understand that this issue's been brought up once before with her. It does involve a yearly looking at it to see where the calls are at, and they base the assessment where it could change every year, which means commercial rates could go down, they could go up. It would all based on the call volumes. And then she also mentioned there's a possibility of a hotel motel category in there too. So we could get her back in here and discuss anything we need to as far as that's concerned.
How much did we pay her?
We paid her like $13,000 the first time, and I think it's $5,000 to $6,000 annual maintenance. It's a rough number.
To answer the timeline, it says if we're going to have GSG help us again and do this, they need notice to proceed by July. July is broad, but they want to adopt a preliminary rate resolution and start the process July 10th.
Well,
Can you say that again, please, to understand you?
July 10th would be the date that we need to start the process.
well, I'm no expert in this, and I don't know that anybody in this room is an expert. Perhaps there is. And so we've hired an expert because we needed a fire department. And we needed help in how to get going so that the ISO would not give us a 10. And I'm relying on that expert, just like whatever business you're in. They come to you, I go to Al and say, okay, I need this, what tool do I need, or what pipe do I need? And whatever he says or the guys say in the hardware store, I buy it. I might not figure it out right away or think, oh, why that? But he's the expert, so I do it. Same with her. She's the expert. And I think we started this in September, and we did what we needed to do at the time. So my feeling is, go with the assessment this year, and Chief Simmons said, every year we look at it. So now we will have a whole year to look at it. And if there's ways to tweak it, as Bill mentioned, if there's ways to tweak it throughout this next year, and then a year from now we can say, okay, this is what we need to change. I'm not in favor of another workshop right now. We've had 2 with her within a short period of time. I would say work it out, work it through a year, and then if we need her back, that's one thing.
I want to clarify, I'm not for putting it part of the millage. I'm for finding a fairer way to assess the community.
well,
That's what I'm for. I'm not for, the millage rate is a bad, at least in my opinion, a bad way to gather money for the fire department.
do we
So
have,
it would be the assessment in
The
your mind.
assessment, and then, but I'm not for just accepting what we've done. We're looking at a 3-year plan. We're now looking at a what I would consider a more permanent way of dealing with our fire department. I would like to find a more equitable way to assess than just say that these people came in here and this is what they said we had to do. I'm not accepting of that.
Adrian?
So that's all I'm saying. I'm not for the millage.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Adrian, if we brought the consultant back in, would those funds come from general fund or would they come from the fire assessment?
They come from the fire fund.
Okay, which means we have the capability in that fund to do this.
Her annual fee is budgeted for in the fire fund in the preliminary budget we have.
If it's budgeted for, I really don't have a problem giving her our input of what we need and having a one-time shot at seeing how we can be more equitable from an expert.
So if we wanted to try to do a different rate, we may need to look at another company. If she comes back in, her annual maintenance is gonna be based off our reporting of call data. Now, before I was here, that reporting was questionable. I can assure you it's very good now, and it's up to the standards of MPA and the state and everything else through our new reporting software we purchased. She's gonna look at that data. That's her annual maintenance, to my understanding. I don't think she's gonna rebuild the whole thing. There is other companies that do this, and that might, I'm not sure where we're going with that.
I think she did a good job in the beginning to try and help us. If she says she can't do anything to help equal out and look at equality, then we have no choice but to go to someone else. But if she's the expert we expect her to be, frankly, I would expect her to have that capability.
Okay, well, I'm satisfied that 5 of us can do that.
To do what?
Find an equitable what? I think that's what we're
Do we
charged
have
to
the
do.
time to do that?
I'm
If we have to have it by
But that's
July
my,
10th.
that's my feeling. We have the data, I think we know what Sandy's gonna say. I don't think that's in question. We can bring her here, she's gonna say what she's told us.
I believe that, yes, sir.
Yes, I do too. So, if we're discussing fire department funding, back on subject here, I think it is pretty obvious that it's not a millage rate that we're seeking to use as our funding source. So if we're looking at an assessment process, do you want to have a workshop to discuss how we would more equitably do that? Do you want the so-called expert to come back to tell us what she's already told us? What would be if you're looking for an action this morning, then I guess we would open the floor, table up
Well,
to.
if you think that she's gonna say the same thing,
Well, that's what she's told me.
then why pay her to come back?
Exactly.
If you don't, but so then where do we go? And who's to say that we can get another expert within this short time period so we can make a decision by July 10th?
The other method that we talked about was the split. Can we do the split millage, Adrian, through the assessment where it's based on, similar to Springfield or Panama City Beach, where half of it is based on per parcel and then half is based on value? That's an assessment also, correct? We talked to her briefly in an email about that, and I know that was another option, but that's the other option she has as far as that company, which we talked in the beginning, and we chose not to go that route. But that's something that other cities have done, and she wasn't completely for it, but it's something that exists.
How much would the millage rate be?
We're not sure.
Have any idea?
Depends how
Rough
we split it, depends on a lot of things.
I don't see how splitting it will make it clearer to the citizens. I think we need to go one way or the other. And it's just clearer to explain it, but to say, well, half of it's coming from this and half of it's coming from this, I think that muddies the water myself.
I agree. All right, so I think it's decision, while not formally, that it's not the consensus that we do a millage rate. If we're gonna do an assessment rate, once again, I'll ask, I recommend a workshop for the discussion of the most equitable way to assess in terms of trying to come to how we at this table feel based on, we've had
enough workshops. I've heard what people have said. We've all seen and been part of meetings where they come to the podium, they throughout town. We should have all gathered whatever information we felt comfortable and to try to come up with an assessment that we feel is equitable. If we don't want to do that, if we're going to just say this is what the expert said, this is what we're going to do, well then I guess we can entertain a motion. If no one's interested in discussing a more equitable way amongst us, I'm like Linda, I don't want to pay Sandy to come down here to tell us what she's already told us. There's no value in that for me.
So if we had a workshop, you have to let the public know how many days ahead of time? 5, 7? 3. So you put it in the paper, and so that's the beginning of July by the time they see it. And then
You
we...
don't have to put it in the paper.
Just have to be
You
posted.
don't have to
Oh,
post
okay,
it. Put it
okay.
in the paper.
Right. Well,
We could say we're gonna have one Friday, right now. I mean, we could say we'll have one next Monday. We can say, I mean,
Okay.
it's not like this is a long drawn-out process to meet, to have a workshop to discuss what we're gonna do. We can call it a meeting and make a decision at that meeting.
So the assessment would be similar to the one we just had?
The
Probably
way
a
it's
little bit,
written now, yes.
probably a little
The way
bit
it's written
more.
now.
Yeah,
would we be accumulating less money because we need the money to keep the fire department going?
The money's always gonna be the money, it's just how it's split out.
Okay,
okay, so we're doing this because this is the minimum amount of money we need.
We have a dollar amount we need to fund the department, and then we need to figure out how we're gonna collect that dollar amount.
And this is going to go on forever.
Ever.
So I'm saying a workshop is going to bring in maybe 50 people, and I'm going to say that 35 or 40 of them will not want a fire department. We had that reaction before. A lot of people said, what do we need a fire department for if I gotta pay $200 or $300? And so it all comes down to, do we need the fire department or not? Well, if we go to a 10, most of the people that I talked to that were in business didn't even check to see what their insurance rate would be if it was a 10 by ISO, the infamous ISO group. I did about my place, and I think I explained to everybody it was going to go up about $300 a year, nearly double. Nearly double. Now, I don't know that we'd like to think the expert was the expert. And the reason we pay somebody that kind of money is because pretty much that's what she's done for several years all over the state. Didn't quite seem equitable to me at the time either. But when you go to, well, certain business places, 25 or 30 more times than you come to my house, then there is a reason for them to pay more.
But that's not data you can support, sir.
Well-
That is absolutely not data that you can support.
I think we
No.
probably can support that.
No, you cannot. 25 and 30 times?
I'm just saying.
Well, I think it's important that we give accurate information, is all I'm saying. That is absolutely incorrect.
Do you have, when did we put this software into place that keeps up with where we go and all that?
I think it came online roughly in March, but we can backdate it to January. I have enough information to put it in. I'm trying to backdate some of that information.
Now, this is telling us where we go, when we go, and why we go there.
Well, I'm limited on what I can tell you why, as far as like, I can't, if we go to residents, I can't tell you why we went there.
Let me interject something here, please. It's important, as the chairman, that the workshop that I'm asking for isn't to ask if we want a fire department. That's been established. I'm not here, we wouldn't have a workshop to open up the same questions that we entertained when we were trying to decide how people feel. That decision's made. All I'm wanting to do is us to put our heads together on how we're gonna collect the money. I can't imagine that anyone, if they come to say they don't need a fire department, then they're out of order. That's not what the purpose of the meeting is for. I want us to stay focused on what we're trying to accomplish here. That's all. I think we're moving, we're getting on some side streets that just simply aren't what my suggestion was.
Could Chief Simmons, could you follow up with your answer to Jerry's question?
So we can come up with certain data on where we go, and she looked at that last time, and it'll explain that commercial and everything, but I understand where the mayor's coming. As far as whether we follow the expert or not, I don't know what's best. If you guys come up with a plan that funds what we need, we can fix this solution. So if you guys come up with some other rate that works, I just know what amount we need to keep the fire department funded, and I support whatever decision you guys make as far as if you need to change rates or do it yourselves. I don't know the legality of that, and I know Nick's not here, but I don't have an opinion one way or the other as of now. As long as we fund what we need to, we're going to stay on track. I'll make my commitment to keeping the ISO rating, so whatever we decide. But as far as the data, we can pull any data and say where we go. Whether it's commercial or residential, that's pretty simple to pull out. But I think you'll find that it's similar to the same data as before. And you know, you're obviously going to go to the hotels, motels, campgrounds more because there's more people there. So it's kind of hard to compute those numbers because however many rooms are at one hotel, you're going to go to that one more just statistically. And whatever campground has more campsites, you're going to go to it more too. So, you know, but as far as the other businesses, I'm not sure we go to them necessarily more. Maybe restaurants, but like your standalone businesses, we probably don't go there any more than a residence. It would be the average.
Pleasure to council in terms of either a motion or to table the item or to have a workshop.
Well, I don't know if we can table it because our next official meeting isn't until.
Well, we've got to move, we've got to have some direction.
Right.
I've made one suggestion. Table's open for whatever else table council feels. Okay? I saw a hand. We'll take some discussion as long as it's relevant to, please come forward.
Hi, Sandy Yarbrough, 66 Azalea Drive. I just have a question about the expert. First of all, I'd like to have that job. Secondly, I understand the process and why we needed an expert, and obviously we all need and want a fire department, but does she get to tell us how we get that money? And why can't we try to find something that is a little more fair for everybody in the city?
Thank you. Okay, I don't think, is there, again, I'd like to keep, for the sake of trying to find the direction to give, I tell you what, I'm going to relinquish the chair, and I'm going to make a motion that we schedule a workshop for Friday morning to discuss the methodology and the way of funding the budget, and let staff bring to us current numbers that represent the budget, that represent areas that we can sit here and decide. I've got some other ideas. I think they're too lengthy to do. I didn't think we would get into this depth, but the motion that I'm making is to schedule a workshop for Friday morning at 9 o'clock to discuss that.
Can we go 11 a.m. when the building has somebody in it?
Can we
about
do
Thursday?
How about Wednesday, tomorrow?
I don't think we can do that.
I can't get it out fast enough.
Can't get it out fast enough. I can
Not
do
even
Friday.
at 3 o'clock tomorrow?
Or at 11 o'clock's fine. Or even 6 o'clock tomorrow night's fine.
I like 11 o'clock Friday.
I like 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
I like 6 tomorrow.
I'll go for 6. It's getting close and over.
Can we do it tomorrow night?
I can get it out as soon as this is
6
over.
o'clock tomorrow night? Yes, no? Yes, yes? No, maybe? Consensus? All right, I made a motion to, I guess,
Or is
I've
there,
relinquished
is
the
there,
chair. What
is
am I
there a
doing?
motion for the fire assessment? You made a motion?
I made a motion to
Okay.
have a workshop, and I'll rephrase my motion for 6 o'clock tomorrow at the Civic Center.
I'll second it.
Any discussion amongst the staff? Jerry, can you make it?
Well, normally that's when I have pizza, but that. Yeah.
For all of us.
Can we have a vote then?
Do we need a
Mr.
vote?
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mayor
Yeah.
Kathy. Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Mr. Putnam.
Yes. All right, schedule that, get it out properly as we can. Moving on, Public Works Director, number 2.
As we all know, 36th Street, bridge project, we start here shortly. One of the areas that the city had to contend with was relocating the water and sewer lines that cross the old bridge. The bores are in, that part is done, all we gotta do is do the tie-ins now, and I just wanted to update the council as to what the game plan is and how we plan on this to work out, and see if you guys had any suggestions or concerns. GAC, we got together with GAC, the plan is to start July 10th. We thought it best to wait after the 4th of July week. They will arrive on site around 7 a.m. to begin the setup and digging down on the first water tie-in. And roughly around 8 to 8:30 a.m. is when the water will be shut off to make the tap. GAC estimates that the time the water will be off will be roughly 4 hours. And that will affect 4 to 7 homes in that area back there. Everybody pretty much except for that one section of Tranquil Harbor that ties in the sits on 36th Street. All the homes will be out of water for that 4-hour period. Our plan on the staff level is to go door to door, make phone calls, reach out to every single person that lives over there, and let them know what's going on. This is what we're gonna be doing. They'll tie in the first water tie-in, like I said, around 8:30ish. Expect a 4-hour downtime. After that's done, they will jump over to the 2-inch force main, tie that in that day. So the force main will be done on the 10th, and the first tie-in will be done on the 10th for the water side. Now on the 11th, the second water tie-in will be done, same time frame, 8:30, the water will be cut off. Lunchtime, the water will be turned back on, and then the project will be over. So just wanted to touch base with you guys, see if there was anything that you wanted us to do different, did you have any concerns or anything like that? And then just update you guys on what we got going on.
This was July 10th.
July 10th.
So when do they plan to build the road around so these people can get out?
That's supposed to be starting here shortly, very, very soon. I don't know the name of the company, but I was told day before yesterday, that the project did let, and somebody did get the contract, but we haven't gotten that information yet.
So the state's handling that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be paved from the blacktop area all the way around through the parking lot at the dock and out to the highway.
From 98 all the way back to I think it turns into 44th Street once you cross the bridge.
Okay. Because all that has to be done before they can dismantle the bridge.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Number 3.
This one should be quick, Your Honor. Years ago, the city approved a contract with a business to contract with us on behalf of the FDOT to provide maintenance for Highway 98 all the way from the Gulf County line to just to the west limits of the city. They give us a total of $14,726.51. And this contract doesn't automatically renew until we sign it and send it back. So I'm just notifying the board that it's time to renew it. I'll be sending it in shortly. And that's enough for that.
This is for the same amount,
Same amount.
even though we're paying our people more money this year.
We can either take it or leave it.
Okay, number 4.
Normally, when it comes to special events applications, it's something that the council does not get involved, and we haven't passed yet our new special events ordinance. But there are a couple of applications that are dangling out there I just wanted to bring to your attention. Number one, this is an off-season request. This is for Parker Park. This is for December 1st, so it's definitely off-season. This is for a barbecue contest. There will be about 12 to 20 contestants vying for this particular crown of the best barbecue, different types of barbecue and whatnot. He doesn't require a large attendance. It looks like about 300 people are expected, so that doesn't really impact anything at all. The next one, this one came in not long ago. I am leaning towards denying this one because it's an event on July 4th for 40 people. That is one of the biggest weekends we have, and I really hate to cordon off one section of the beach for one entity. So unless you look at me otherwise, I'm going to deny that one.
I think that beach on the 4th of July should be for everybody.
Right.
That was a private party, basically?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yep.
And the reason they went for the permit was because they said they're going to be a little noisy.
Everybody.
You'll must be able to tell, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this particular one is the Forgotten Music Festival. This one is off-season as well. This will be November 2nd and 3rd. They have an expected attendance of 1,200 people. It's wanting to be a beachfront at the El Governor. And I got this provided to me just a few days ago because I've been after them to get me something to have a look. The stage on the beach would be in front of the pavilion next to the El Governor. It'll be 20 by 30 feet. It will have 20 feet between the high tide watermark and the stage to allow normal traffic to progress up and down the beach. It will be 30 feet from the sand dunes and about 60 feet out. And of course, depending on the size of the crowd, that may 60 feet may be longer than that. I did have to ask the question though, what is this 13 feet thing right there? It looks like a little spaceship or something. I couldn't really discern. That's a trash can we've got right there. And I understand that's very difficult to make in the program CAD, but nonetheless. This is expected to have their own generators on site. The generators, of course, would not be directly on the beach. They would be just off the beach. To power this, because there was a big concern about enough power capacity. There is a concern about noise. But the event will be on the 2nd from 4 until 11, and on the 3rd, 5 until 11. So not going late at night, so hopefully they will not cause an issue. I was told that should the council look unfavorably on that location, that he would try to get it into Parker Park. But of course, what do people come to Mexico Beach for but to go to the beach? So he would prefer the beach location, but he would go to Parker Park. So what are your thoughts?
Can we go back to the map? If you said that the stage will be 20 feet from the end of the dunes, and then the stage length is 30, and then you said it was at 20 feet to the high water. So we actually have 70 feet in between that? No. So it wouldn't fit.
This is something that I asked him about fencing. How's he going to keep the crowd walking around from being part of his event when he doesn't want them to? That's all the details he'll work out later.
And
so
how?
This is something that we can.
And how will they keep them from walking behind the stage of the sand dunes? Fencing would do it, but I don't know, I don't see 70 feet from the end of the sand dunes to the water line, high tide, but I didn't measure it.
are the existing restrooms sufficient, or will they have to put in porta potties?
They'll bring in porta potties, and they will park off-site and shuttle people back and forth like some of the other events.
Do we know where they're expected to park off-site?
That's something he wanted to get the tentative okay first before he gets all the details worked out.
Oh, I'm kind of thinking Parker Park is nice. I'm not worried about the parking. You know, if people want to come to an event, they don't mind walking 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks if they are interested in going to an event. I mean, that happens throughout the country. If you want to go to something, you're going to walk there. So the parking doesn't bother me, but I don't know, how much damage will it do to our beach with all of these people? Oh, I'm thinking Parker Park is a nice place. And yes, they do come for the beach, but, you know, no, I know, that's all right.
I see you. We'll get there.
So this is something we can
No,
have
that's
some
all
further
right.
study just to make sure that there's concerns about not enough space between the stage and the sand dunes and the damage to the beach.
Well, he'd take care of when they pull the stage up, you know, if there's big ruts and all that. I would assume he's gonna take care of that.
That's the intent.
And, okay. Got 2 people.
Any other comments from the crowd? Yes, sir.
I am the producer of the
Please come forward.
He can answer questions.
First of all, thank you guys for taking this into consideration. I was doing this, just briefly, if I might, I was doing this for Memphis, and we love this place so much, we recently bought a home here, and this is our community too. So the big thing is we want to give back to the community with this event. I produce large-scale events in the region outside of Memphis. A lot of them, I won't bore you with my bio, but I will answer to your concerns. But I want to say that this is a beautiful place, and my intention is to help the community as well as bring people in. These people that are going to come in are people that is around the ages that are in this room right here. They've got a disposable income. They want to come in and they want to leave, and they're going to drop some money. Our big thing is to bring people in early, have them stay a little late, and enjoy the area here. Now, with that in mind, as far as the beach is concerned, we would of course leave the beach in as good a shape or better than we found it in. There seems to be 70 feet on the beach. I've taken some pictures, and I'd be more than glad to share those pictures as I was measuring this out. The 20 by 30 footprint for the stage, that's actually that's larger than the stage is going to be. That's the perimeter that I want to keep around that stage. It's more like 23 by 20. So the stage is a smaller footprint, but we've got to be able to secure the area to keep the patrons, both the fans that are going to be be on site, and the people that are going to be walking past the beach on the public side. We've got to keep those people safe and secure. So as an event producer, one of the biggest things that I look at is the safety and security of the fans that are there. If we provide the fans with a safe and secure location, they're going to have a great time. The second priority is a safe and secure place for the musicians. If we provide the musicians with the best experience possible, they're going to provide the best experience for the fans, and people are going to come back during an off season year after year. So I am here before you to answer your questions and hopefully to put your mind at ease on what could be for years to come a very successful event. I would also like to say we're not looking for 20 or 30,000 people. We're not doing country, we're not doing rock, we're not doing rap. We're doing roots music. We're doing a respectable music with respectable fans that are going to come in and take care of this area, because most of them are very enthusiastic about the outdoors. That's what makes November here so exciting. Most people are going to come in from a northern area where it's cold. And they get to come and enjoy paradise. So I'm going to pause now and maybe answer your questions.
Got a question.
I have a question probably for Mel. How would this affect, we currently have a beach business on the beach. If the permit is turned in and approved, how would it affect that business? I mean, because they're both at El Governor, if that permit comes to be.
Well, first, we're talking about November. There's
Right,
really not
but-
much business
Okay,
for that during that time.
okay.
What do you think about it, Mel?
I think it's worth trying 1 year.
I agree. I don't think we need to beat this to death. I mean, it sounds pretty presentable to me, and I think it's worth one try, except a question in the back.
I know, I'm waiting
Okay.
I told her she would be recognized. I'm waiting to, yeah, thank you.
Watch your head.
Watch out for the head.
Watch your
Watch
head.
out for your head.
Only I can go under it.
All right, come forward. I saw a hand in the rear, please. Okay,
2 questions.
all right, my bad.
I just have a quick question.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I know with November, it kicks off our beach nourishment project. I just want to know where we're going to stand because this is part of our restoration area. Just want to throw that out there.
This will be the first weekend it's possible for beach nourishment. So I doubt very much it will have an effect at all.
Okay. That was it.
Next.
Alicia Mosley, hello. 105 South 37th Street. Just a really question for Joe. We're all into our community and bringing our community together. Is there any fundraising with this? We're talking about doing it year after year, trying it for a year, great idea. But how do we bring, I know it brings people together, outsiders, that's great. But how do we, or do you have anything established for fundraising, maybe funding back to the community, maybe bringing in our local businesses, our local artists, things of that nature to maybe bring it more together as a community and bring the outsiders together to see what we really have to offer?
Great question.
Thank you.
In response to that, my professional background is in nonprofit, and what my claim to fame is, if that's even a thing in the world, is producing world-class blues events. And so in a nonprofit world, it is very important to bring the community together. While this is a for-profit business, and by the way, I do have an LLC, which is being converted to it, that doesn't matter either, but we do have a business, and we are based in Mexico Beach. And so all of the funds that we'll be making here will be spent here. I'm in the stores here daily, I feel like, even when I go grocery shopping. So back to the community and artists. So we will be including local artists. Just moving here, I'm only familiar with a few opening artists, but Will Thompson from Panama City will be opening the event. I do plan on using local vendors for everything from the stage to the sound. So I'm looking for people that can provide a first-class experience as local as I can get them. So I've been working with a couple other events around town to get names, and of course Kimberly, and I thank Kimberly for her help on this, and making sure that we've got the right people doing the right jobs. As far as local businesses, we will be once with this approval. We will be going on to food sales and beverage sales. And so beverages and food at this time, my first one is with Gulf Foods. So Gulf Food is going to help us with our refreshments and some food, hopefully. I'm going to lean on with this approval. I'll be going to every one of the shops, one of the restaurants around here to see if they can provide food for the masses. And it's very important to sell this area, is to sell the people that live here and love it in the first place. So that's part of it. If you go to our website, people that we're doing business with now, and we're trying to meet everyone in the community. And I've got email addresses, so please tell me who I need to meet, and we'll go have coffee or whatever. But so we're really pushing the local ecotourism. We want people to get on boats and go out and see the Gulf, and to maybe experience fishing, to go kayaking, to go bicycling, to enjoy all of everything that we all love here. The reason why those of us that aren't from here came here, and I'm proud to call this place home now. So, did I answer?
Yes, sir, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Logan, 402 Maryland. I'm very happy that people want to start bringing in events here. I think we are a good place to have things like that. So in theory, I think it's grand. I have been following this event's website, and there are just questions about putting it on the beach. I went down there on June 1st at the El Governor, took some photographs. There was 20 feet between the dune line and the high water line, so that's questionable that there's really enough room. We haven't gone through the season yet either. The other thing, the website said things like they were going to have off-site parking and they're going to use golf carts to shuttle. I have a problem with golf carts as shuttling, especially at night. There's just a lot of details that I think have to be looked at that haven't been mentioned here, and I also want to remind the council that we have Parker Park there. It was made to be our venue site, and we might want to consider putting it in Parker Park instead of on the beach. Trust me, I understand people wanting to be on the beach for these things, but I think there are a lot of questions that still need to be answered about parking and transportation to and from, and the safety of the dunes, because we've all seen people not protecting the dunes. They don't necessarily mean to tear up the dunes, but they don't think about it when they're out there having fun and drinking. So just think about these things.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Actually, kind of one. Something this large, this is the first time I know we're trying, totally in favor of it. But with something that's a large event and giving our okay on it, is this a full okay, or would this be a kind of a preliminary, we like the idea, we want it? There were some points brought up about, do we really have the space between the water and so forth? The golf carts going down 98, we know, unless they're licensed, that can't be done. But in other words, I guess what I'm saying is this a preliminary, and then before the final okay would be given at some point, we would see the full plans that have questions that might be a problem. Not saying we would want to not okay anything. I think this is a good idea, but this is our first. Would we want somewhere down in the future, before it actually starts, before we would be a problem to the person that's putting it together, plus a problem to our community, to have kind of a final look at and make sure everything's in place?
That was a long question.
Yes, I'm sorry. When you get my age, it just kind of rambles.
Well, like I said, this is not normally something that even comes before the city council, and so there's no really intent for this to come back.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring it out for you. I figured Mr. Whitmer might be here, and I was hoping he would be, thank God he was, to kind of answer some questions you might have. Hearing it from him is more important than hearing it from me. And now that you've heard that, I think, I'll go ahead and proceed with working with Mr. Whitmer to make sure the items in question are taken care of. If they are not, then I can just pull it from that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think it's up to Mel to decide if there are questions that Mel needs to ask and get them answered. I don't think we need to worry about it. That's what Mel's supposed to be doing here.
I agree.
Agreed.
We don't need to talk about this anymore. I mean, if it comes up in being a total flop, then Mel can tell us next time, don't do this.
True.
That's all for number 4.
All right, number 5.
I gave everybody a copy before the meeting. I was tasked with coming up with a cost to utilize an inmate work group for the city of Mexico Beach. If you look at the first page, which starts with the inmate work crew equipment list. We'll start with the officer's salary. You notice that there's 2 different prices. The first price, which is the $58,000, almost $59,000 price tag, that includes $2,000 of training from the work camp center, from the correction center, to train the officer in this particular area. And after that, the following years after that, the price tag drops down to $56,747 even. Below that, I put on there, the overtime, if the officer was to work overtime, which I just can't see any reason for that to happen. But I just put on there, just in case, so y'all need to know. Then you got some prices of the vans. The recommended one would have been, let's see, it's the Big Ben Chevrolet Buick Company, the 24950. That's the more commonly seen van that you see pulling trailers and with work crews. You know, the other one, the Ford, looks more like a higher, fancier end van. I don't know how to explain it. But I can, you know, if you guys want, I can send you pictures of all that stuff. We'd have to provide a portable restroom that would go on the trailer. Safety equipment for the work crews, vest, earplugs, so on and so forth. Water kegs. We'd have to buy a trailer, a utility trailer. The ones we have won't be big enough to accommodate the equipment plus a portable restroom, so we'd have to get another restroom, or I mean, sorry, trailer. And then we would have to pay for the portable radio for the officer, which you see there is $4,969. The items that we have plenty of lawnmowers. We have 5 lawnmowers in total, 0 turn, mowers. We have push mowers, weed trimmers, post saws, trash pickers, and hedgers, along with items such as chainsaws and whatnot, which the gentleman that I've been speaking with, he says the inmates can do pretty much anything that you want them to do within reason. They could use a chainsaw, I don't know. You know,
If we wanted to.
I mean, that's, we would make up the workload, we would make up what they would be doing day in and day out. So we would dictate where they are and how they do things and what they do and all that good stuff. Everybody here knows when you see a work crew on the side road, how much of an impact they can make in that area in a very, very short amount of time. If you go to page 2, I broke it down for the first year and then the second year and on cost. The first year cost with everything that we just spoke about, the things that we would have to purchase, including the salaries, is $93,801. Now the second year cost and beyond goes down to $60,097. Now I thought it was important to put in here, as most everybody probably remembers, a couple meetings ago, I mentioned to the council that we were going to be asking for additional people, full-time positions in the public works and the utility side. So me and Adrian got together, and if you go down to the first paragraph, where it says we would be able to receive, according to the work camp, anywhere between 5 and 9 inmates every single day for as long as we needed to. And that's throughout the year. Doesn't mean we have to use them throughout the year. We can use them during the summertime and then say, all right, you know, we don't need them for this portion of the year. If we were to hire just 2 full-time employees, starting at $11.66, that would cost the city $44,313.23 per employee, or $88,626.46 for both, with an increase every year in cost of living, health insurance, so on and so forth. So in my opinion, the inmate work crew is by far the best route, especially financially, and the work that we would be able to accomplish. Because by having that crew, we would be able to free up other departments to pick up the slacking areas that have been neglected for years, such as stormwater and landscaping, building maintenance, so on and so forth.
The van, for instance, that would be purchased, is that owned by the city or would that be turned over to the state?
It is owned by the city, but the state, the work camp facility would keep possession of it. So that
And-
way, they can check it every day for contraband, weapons, so on and so forth.
If we discontinued the contract with them, would it be returned to us?
Yes, everything would be ours.
Where would the money come from?
That would be a question for you. Is that
It'd be a budget item.
Okay, so it wouldn't start, you're looking at, I mean, if we go along with this, you're looking at a starting date after our budget approval, so like in the fall? So it wouldn't be this summer?
It wouldn't be for this summer, no. ma'am.
Okay, okay.
And if we went to this program, we wouldn't need the 2 people that you would be asking for?
I don't believe so, no, sir. I think it would do more than, it would free up 3 departments that would benefit most, would be road department, parks and rec, and general maintenance. And that's 9 people in total. And those people can pick up the slacks in other departments when somebody's on vacation or lays out of work, or like I said, focus on the more immediate problems such as stormwater, building repairs and things like that.
But this would not eliminate any of our current employees.
That is not my intention, no ma'am.
Okay, because I don't want this to be this or that. I want to, yeah, okay,
My intention is to keep us from having to hire more full-time people.
okay.
Would this actually allow us to do more with what we have?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. This will be part of our, some budget items that will be presented when we start our workshops. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. Any comments? Okay. Number 6.
Number 6 is concerning the turnout tank for Parker Park. As you know, the scope of services for that particular park was a splash pad for adult exercise. We had numerous discussions about it and decided we want to focus our money towards a pavilion instead. And because there was no way to shift the scope of services, the alternative is to go ahead and give the grant back, even though no money exchanged hands. For the one for Parker Park, they already know that we will be applying for a new FERDAP grant to help fund the pavilion at Parker Park. And as it indicates, the filing time for the next submission is October 1st through the 15th later this year. So we'll apply for the pavilion for funding for that. Any questions?
No?
No.
All right, microphone. These microphones, especially Bill over there again, has been a problem for a number of years. And if you look at these things, they're designed for singing. I don't suspect we'll ever have an operatic type city council meeting.
I hope not.
That would be silly. But nonetheless, you can see by the way I'm talking, as I get closer, it works like pretty good. But as I further get away from it, it doesn't do a very good job at all. So we have a proposal to replace the microphones. These are the long gooseneck microphones. I will try that.
Gooseneck.
We can see it a lot better. They're like an 18-inch neck to it. And so that, for instance, you know, Philip and I and our attorney, when he's here, share a microphone. You guys get your own. So we could have it sit over here, and we could just take the gooseneck and just take it back and forth. Whereas you guys can stick it right in front of you. And you don't have to have it so close because the dynamic range of the new microphone is much better, so you don't have to be speaking right into like I'm doing this. So bottom line is, with the 10% discount with the on-off switch, we're talking about $1,872. We have $1,350 left in our Civic Center fund. We did the Civic Center last year. So the question is, where do you want to go from here? Do you want to go ahead and use the remaining Civic Center funds and then find more dollars somewhere else?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
And where would that come from?
Parks and Rec, I'll get another operating.
By the way, Bill said it sounded like a good idea to him.
Well, the other question I would have, I know you were talking about one over there for the 3 of you, but could we at least give one of these to a lawyer?
We'll make it work.
I think it's a good idea as
Yeah.
long as we have the money. And we have money from the Civic Center. Might as well use that. And then $600 from Adrian.
right.
Not for me, but
All right, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. CDC lease?
I have, I didn't include it for the overhead for today's meeting, but the CDC contract comes up next spring, or this coming spring. And the fiscal year for the CDC starts October 1 like ours does. And so there was a request from Kimberly, from the CDC, to do a contract ahead of time so that they can guarantee and budget for the rent that may or may not go up starting October 1. So that being said, we've already had preliminary discussions with Kimberly, and I think it's appropriate just to say that it's the intent for the CDC to take over more maintenance of the grounds of that building that they're renting, in exchange for the fact that we keep the rent at the same, which is $250 a month.
$250 a month?
Yes.
Right.
We put that building there. We did all the remodeling around that building. We pay all of our utilities except for water because you have that building on a designated park and a public restroom.
So the reason I brought up a copy of the charter in our city code is it does say that where there's a lease of any lands of the city, it's gotta be done by ordinance. It's something that I can't do, it's something you can't do just by a vote. I tried to look back in 2004 where we did that years ago and couldn't find it. So I think it's appropriate then that I bring back to you at the next meeting a strikeout copy of the old contract to let you know what's being changed, along with an ordinance for a first reading to proceed.
I do have a curious question. I'm not sure, it came from Kimberly. If I heard correctly, you said you put the building there. Does that mean that the CDC purchased a building and put it on that site?
Yes, sir.
So you owned the building and basically
No,
kind
sir, we deemed it over to the city whenever we moved it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Part of what you see in the document, the agreement has an attachment to it, which specifies exactly what Kimberly was saying. There was the old green property or something that was mentioned, and so it's kind of a neat little historical exercise that you can see when you get there. That's all I have for that, Your Honor.
So who's going to take care of the grounds?
The CDC is going to take over responsibility.
I think that would be good for somebody to take over. We're not doing a very good job of it. I would, as I mentioned to Kimberly, I would like to see that nice looking yard, grass, whatever, as opposed to weeds growing up 3 feet high. And I think she can do that. I have all the confidence in the world in Kimberly doing that.
Number 9?
This one says sale of property, Your Honor. This one's multifaceted, because as you know, we have requested 5 acres of property from the St. Joe Company. We put the map on the screen so you can see where it is. I got notified earlier this week that the proposal has cleared their committee at the St. Joe Company, and they are proceeding to get this done for us. So that's really good news indeed. We're talking 5 acres, roughly about $10,500 per acre. So we're talking $50-some thousand that would have to pay for this property. So your next question, being the fiscally responsible people that you are, is where's the $55,000 coming from? Well, the answer is we have 2 parcels of property that you can see on the map there on La La Lane. That's the site of the old well from many years ago when we did our own water. The well has been a property encased in concrete, so it is no longer an operating well. It hasn't been for years, but we can sell that property. So I asked our city attorney what he would recommend the best way to go about disposing of that property. First thing we have to do, of course, is we have to pass an ordinance that we no longer need the property and proceed in that manner. In the meantime, we can get an appraisal of that property to establish what the value of those 2 lots are. and then we can put ads in the paper to sell that property. The other alternative is to engage a realtor to sell it for us. But that's difficult because you gotta pick and choose which realtor, and that, I'm thinking that's gonna go well for us. So if there's no opposition, we will proceed in that manner.
We haven't used it, we have no need for it.
Exactly. It's right in a residential neighborhood, so
Okay.
any municipal use is gonna be more noisier than what they want.
Sell it.
Any opposition?
Sell it.
Go for it.
All right.
Number 10.
Number 10 is about the special master. The special master is up for reappointment anyway, but our current special master has moved outside of the city limits of Mexico Beach. And our special master, part of the ordinance, stipulates that in letter B there, or number B. The special master shall be a full-time resident of the city and appointed for a term of 2 years. And of course, they can be reappointed. But if you read this whole document, it doesn't say that the special master has to be an attorney. First of all, how many attorneys do we have living full-time in the city of Mexico Beach? That might be difficult. Especially when the fact is that the special master serves at no compensation except reimbursement of expenses. So I'm not asking for names and suggestions at this particular time, but I want to bring it to your attention that we're without a special master. We need to find a way to get a new one, and what your thoughts are on who that might be, what requirements you might place on them.
I don't know if it's necessary for them to live in the city. I like the idea of having an attorney, and I like the idea of them not charging us anything. And I think the special master that we have had in the past has done a very good job. And sometimes it takes quite a bit of his time. And I think that's one reason I like the idea of having an attorney.
It is easier for us to have an attorney because how many laypersons know how to properly call people in for testimony and things of that sort, and really know how to run a court? And that's what it is.
Right.
It's very difficult for someone off the street to do.
I think, actually, I kind of agree with you, Jerry. I don't see a reason we need to have them. Pardon me, you're correct. Thank you. We definitely need the new mics. I agree with Jerry. I'm not sure I understand why they have to be a citizen or live within the city. I think to be actually even all the way across, almost better to have someone that's not a member of the city. I'm not saying someone that's in the city isn't, can't be, but I don't necessarily see it needs to be a requirement. But I agree with the idea of a lawyer. I think that would be a good idea. In today's age, 20 years ago, probably didn't need it, but the way the laws and the suing and everything else has gone today, we're probably better off if we can find a lawyer.
Would he consider continuing if we change the ordinance?
It's a question I can ask.
I agree, I think it needs to be a lawyer.
I think he should just ask.
Agree.
Good?
Good.
Is that all we need on that? Number 11 is me. I think that I want to preface what my comments will be by saying that anytime that we take a position as an elected official, we recognize the need for the team concept. That's just part of, that goes with the job. It's not my decision, it's not anyone's decision here at this table. We as a group make a decision on how we want our city led. When I signed up to run for office, I did so having full knowledge and understanding the charter. I had a full and understanding knowledge of the agreement with in terms of an employment agreement with the city administrator. I had full knowledge and understanding of the ordinances that had been passed in terms of delegating authority and responsibility to the position of the city administrator. I signed up to be an active and informed member of the city council that decides how this city operates. What are the fundamental standards? What are the core values that we provide as a service to this city that our citizens deserve? I didn't sign up to micromanage what we do. I'm not interested in the work schedule. I'm not interested in what day of the time that the truck may go to Panama City for the sanitation delivery. I'm interested in how we present ourselves. Part of what I did in fulfilling my obligation was to put my ear to the ground, to be informed, to be knowledgeable, to evaluate, to assess, so that I could make informed decisions, so that I could come before this council or this staff or this administration and have input, offer direction, and ensure that certain standards by which we operate are met. And I think that we all at this table do that in some form. Some at different levels, some are satisfied. The one thing I did not sign up for is to be a rubber stamp for this administration. I did not sign up so that I can chair meetings and sign checks. In the last 12 months, I have made a conscious effort to find a place within the walls of City Hall for me to offer areas of major concern to me, top priorities, leadership skills, people skills, decision-making skills, ensuring that we offer a service to this community that is respected. I have met resistance far too often in my ability and my position that I hold, no different than anyone at this table, in trying to do the things that I think are simply right and wrong. I am disappointed, and I will be upfront and honest, that I am at this meeting in a public environment to voice my concerns. The majority of the time they have fallen on deaf ears. I have been told far too often that that's my opinion. You certainly are entitled to your opinion. I'll take it under advisement. I do not go to City Hall or to meet with staff for validation. When I signed up and put my name on the ballot, I was validated by the citizens of this community. My analysis in the last 12 months that I find the leadership subpar. I could sit here and give you multiple examples of areas that I feel that we fall short in servicing this community. I cannot stress enough how difficult it is for me to sit at this table, because we have an open sunshine law, state and government. It's not my place to go and bring up things to other council members. It's not my place. I respect what we all do, but I cannot lower my standards or adjust my core values to some of the things that have happened in the leadership of this city. I simply cannot do that. They are cross-grained to my standards. I have adjusted. I think I'm a good team player. I understand being part of the team. I'm here today to make a recommendation to the city council. It is my sincere belief, it is my analysis, a 12-month-long assessment of watching, listening, being informed, being part of, that we need a change in leadership. I am making a recommendation that the city administrator be relieved of his employment. I am recommending that we honor the contract that we have with our city administrator in terms of the severance package that is outlined in his agreement. This does not come from some whim. It does not come from getting my way. It doesn't come, it's part of the job that I took on when I put my name on that ballot. I stand by my assessment. I consider it to be truthful, it's factual, it is part of performing a task that I think is the most important thing that we do as elected officials. And that's to monitor how we govern. With that said, I will briefly, and it is brief. In the terms of the agreement, it states under terms that the administrator shall hold office at the will of the council. Nothing in this agreement shall prevent, limit, or otherwise interfere with the right of the city council to terminate the services of the administrator at any time. It further states under section 4, it is understood and agreed that the city council will be the sole judge as to the effectiveness and the efficiency with which the administrator performs his employment. My purpose today is that no matter what documents we have read, what ordinances are signed, this table is responsible for the product that is produced by this administration. Our fingerprints are part of how we govern. I think it's important that we hold a higher standard than what we have. I will relinquish the floor. My recommendation is firm. The floor is open for either comments and/or.
Can we do comments first? Do we need a second?
No.
Can we do comments
No,
now?
I think this is important to just do your comments. I'm not. If you, I mean, this
Okay.
isn't a requirement.
That's fine.
I want to, before you start, I did not come here to solicit those of you at this table to feel compelled to do. I gave my assessment of 12 months of working in the system that we have. That's all.
Okay. I'm sitting here shocked with your comment. And I'm taken back that you, at this time, want me to make a decision to fire Mel when I have just learned of your disagreement with the way he's working the city. This is a whole new page in the book. I was not aware of it. Sunshine Law, we don't talk about anything, and I can honestly say this council doesn't talk about, I don't talk to these council members at all. In my opinion, I disagree completely. I think Mel and everybody else in the city has had a rough road. They are trying to follow the ordinances in the LDR. And for many, many years, and I've been a resident here since 2005, I have personally seen people get away with things because they do, and other people follow the rules. And this team and Mel, it seems like, You know, the buck stops at Mel, no matter who it is, whether it's Adrian, Fire Department, Philip, the buck stops with Mel. They have tried to enforce all of our ordinances in LDR, and a lot of people haven't been happy. So I personally have no problem with Mel here. Is he perfect? No. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I've made many mistakes up here, I'm sure, and I'm sure all of you have talked about it. But nobody is perfect. And unless I see it in writing where he has really, really goofed up this city, I can't go along with that decision at all. I actually am shocked that you're asking us at this point, within 5 minutes, to make this major decision when we don't know the reasons why, other than you don't feel that he's working for the city.
From my standpoint, I'm embarrassed for our city. I'm embarrassed for our employees. It is true that we have an open law for whatever happens. If we censure Mel, it goes in his file, but it's also open to our newspapers if they want to call for that information. Consequently, yes, we have to be careful. However, the city manager is the highest paid, most powerful employee that we employ for the city to do its job. I would have expected, and I know from comments and everything, the mayor has had issues with him, but I would have expected that he would have come forward and said, look, we're paying a lot of money and we're not getting what we need. Here are the things I've seen. Here is what I think needs to be done, and I think we need to talk to a man and say, if you can't do it, okay, the next step is. And let us as a council then determine if we need to do something or require something from an individual. It's done in every business I've ever been associated with before you bring forward the ability to fire someone. Like I said, I'm a newbie to some people. Some of the people I look out here have been here since before this city was put together as a city. In the past 11 years I've been here, if it's people not doing their job right, I've watched at least 2 city administrators, 1 interim, 2 of the city administrators I believe gone, or one of them I know of has gone under pressure, not more. I've seen a couple of city clerks. One of them was pressured out of the job. We've had several fire chiefs who kind of had to leave because of what they didn't do. And some of their employees cost the city through our insurance companies quite a bit of money because they felt that they weren't treated correctly. Fire chiefs, we've had many. We haven't, as a city, over the past 11 years I've been here, properly taken care of the fire department. Yes, it's a volunteer department at that point in time, but it was our department. It was the council's responsibility. We've gone through 10 to 11 code enforcement officers. And during that time, we've essentially had 2 mayors and 1 for over 2 years. So if there's people that aren't performing, the buck stops right here. And in this case, if we have people that are not performing, we haven't given them a chance. What I found in my few years of working is if you tell people what you expect of them, and they report here, and when you expect it to be done, probably 95% of the time it's going to be done probably better than you ask. I don't think that's happened. Not by maybe 1 of us, 2 of us at a time. But if it's time to justify firing, we should have been involved long before now, and it's an embarrassment that we weren't. Over the past 10 years, I've seen a lot of people in and out of this city, employees. Right now, we have the best team running the city. No, they're not going to make people happy all the time. None of us can. I can't up here. Whoever we would put in any of these positions are not going to make anyone happy all the time. We have to look at enforcing our ordinances and enforcing them evenly. And that's the only way we can do it and justify our jobs, and we've been doing that, or trying to. The biggest complaint I've heard from our citizens is we're not either enforcing our ordinances or we're not enforcing them evenly. And this team has tried. I can in no way justify asking this city manager to leave our city. I think we have gone about it incorrectly. Many of the things that I've heard that are issues, I've talked to him and others that have also been issues. We all make mistakes. God help us if we don't, because that's also the way we learn. A mistake is an opportunity, and I think these people have taken that opportunity to learn by them and made the city better.
And I'll only speak for me in my dealings with Mel. He's open, he's honest. We don't always agree, but we always respect each other when we come out of the meeting. And I can say that with Philip, with Danny, with Chief, with Adrian, both. I enjoy working with everybody up here. I'm not aware of all the problems or whatever the problems are that we have. I think we all work hard to make this city better, and I think we'll continue to do that. Done?
I'm a little displeased with the fact that we haven't heard this before on an official basis, much like Bill said, and the reasons behind that. I talked to Mel and I talked to Adrian 2 times, maybe 3 times a week, and they call me to come sign checks because I don't play golf and I don't do anything else, so I'm always available. The only thing I've found with Mel is sometimes he's just way too nice a guy. And I've told him that before. I like the idea of enforcing the ordinances. If we're not going to enforce them, take them off the books. And I like the idea of enforcing the ordinances for everybody, even my next door neighbor, or my son, or my brother, or whoever lives in town here needs to be treated the same as everybody else. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And we normally find out about that sooner or later, not always the time. But I think Mel has a responsibility of keeping an eye on all the staff, which I think he does. I go in and talk with him about a certain thing because I need to find out what's going on sometime, because sometimes a resident talks to me and they're only hearing one side of the story, and I like to hear both sides, sometimes 3 sides. But it's a difficult situation, and I know the mayor's been here several years, all of his life, I guess, and I know his heart's in the right place. I think the difficult problem is sometimes trying to listen to other people's situations and trying to treat everybody the same. And I think that's what the majority of the people that live here expect. And that's what the most complaints I get is, we're not treating everybody the same on occasions. And that's just it, you know. That's why I like the idea of having the attorney come from out of town that's going to be the, whatever we call him, the Grand Master or whatever. Because I don't want any of my friends treated any other way except the only way, and that's straight and narrow. And that's the ordinances and blah, blah, blah. So, because of the sunshine law, we can't get together and talk. The only thing Rex and I talk about is him playing golf all the time. But, and that's are the weeds in his yard. But, so it makes it rather difficult. The only way I get information is to go to City Hall and talk with Mel, or talk with Adrian about the finances, Mel about the daily routine, or about someone that's fussed at me about something, and I want to find out what is the straight and narrow. I mean, so, and that's when I go to City Hall. And I've usually come away with my questions answered. I think I go to City Hall and I don't try to tell Mel how certain things need to be done. And if we find out certain things are being done that we don't like, then it needs to be discussed up here for you all to know what's going on as well. And for all 5 of us to listen to the information and make decisions from that standpoint. Mel's job's very difficult because he mostly gets negative feelings as people walk in the place to talk with him. I mean, not many people come running in there wanting to hug his neck and say, you're doing a fantastic job. I've kind of been in that situation before too, and I know it's difficult. And the other thing is, I know what we have in Mel, so you go out and you try to find somebody else, and then you've got to go another 10 or 12 months before you figure out what you have. So, and I think by and large, the staff appreciates his approach. Like I say, I've not agreed with all those things, but when I don't agree, I can tell him. And it's all, as soon as I walk out the office, it's nothing personal, it's just the way it is. And so I think sometimes some people get things a little too personal and forget about what the ordinance says. And I'm not going to amble on anymore. I think that's enough.
Okay, I'll close this and we'll move on. I want to clarify, there's no public comment on this subject, this personnel issue.
Are we going to go on with the motion?
There was, nobody made a motion.
Okay, well, you talked about.
No, I just said, I didn't
Okay.
make a motion.
Okay.
I want to clarify just a couple things. Hopefully, or it certainly was my intent, to separate what I consider to be key issues and key concerns, not ordinances, not how we apply the who gets what or who doesn't get what. That's, I'm trying to describe, or attempted to describe the fundamental differences in the standards for which I think that this city needs to be run by. I came prepared to hear what I just heard. My only comment to that is, I don't know what level that those of you as elected officials get involved or have, or give direction or offer comments when it comes to competency, when it comes to insubordination, when it comes to things that are core values that if they happen inside the walls of City Hall with you, that how commonly and how easily they will happen to those in this city. And I've heard that multiple times. I've experienced it. So I'm not here discussing good guy, bad guy, tough job, not tough job. I'm here to discuss the things, the standards by which I'm willing to accept based on my involvement in the position that I took. So I could sit here and give you specific examples of things that have happened and why I've done that. I have done that with our administrator. I have met with him multiple times to discuss how I feel about a situation or an action that was taken by this government, and there was no change. There was no even comment back to me about it. No, unless I pressed the issue. I've done my due diligence. I've done my job. I've reported what I've seen. It's obviously not something that anyone else shares. So, with that said, we will move on to miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous? Chief, you're up.
I had miscellaneous.
Oh, all right, come on.
I didn't speak up fast enough that time.
That's all right.
I'm just curious about the hut, the T-shirt hut. I know last meeting we talked about what's happening with it. It didn't go for the permit at that time. What's the status of that T-shirt hut that, as far as I know, has no permit?
The airbrush hut at the Crazy Beach Pizza is what you're talking about?
Yes.
I cannot contact Hector Vasquez at the request of his attorneys. When I asked the attorneys where to send citations and that sort of thing, because certified mail has always come back to us unopened, then it's obvious that the best way to go about filing something is through his attorneys. And so on, not this past Friday, but the previous Friday, I sent a letter to his attorneys, as well as him, stating he had 1 week to make good on the application for the airbrush building. We're not saying that the building would be disallowed, but what we are saying, he didn't follow the proper procedure. He didn't get a development order. He didn't follow what is the right way to do things. We gave him 1 week to comply, which was the end of business on Friday of this past Friday. When I came to work Monday morning, I snapped a photo of it, it's still there, sent it to our attorney to send to his attorneys. And so, as of this morning, I was given direction from our attorneys to go ahead and have our code enforcement officer, who, as you know, no longer exists, then I suggested maybe the police department could file a citation to Mr. Vasquez. And so the order I gave to our department this morning was, I want to make sure that citation gets given to Mr. Vasquez by the end of the day.
And the citation will say you're closed until proper paperwork is submitted, or what?
The citation means that if he's in violation, which when that is issued he is, then there's a fine for each day he's out of compliance.
What is the fine for each day? Do we know that off the top of our head?
Usually we have a range between $50 and $500.
Okay.
And of course, we don't have a special master anyway, so you can get one.
And so so because we don't have a special masters, all right, this becomes a domino effect. Because we don't have a code enforcer, the police is doing it. And so now that we don't have a special masters, if they refuse to close it, and let's say they refuse to pay the fine, then our special masters would take care of that, or would our lawyer take care of it since we do not have a special masters?
I see this playing out by the attorneys
The
getting
attorneys,
together and
since we
saying-
can't contact Mr. Valquez
Exactly.
via our city to him, okay?
Has this individual applied for his permit to do business this year?
The next item. On the previous Monday, I sent a letter filed with the city, and that as such, he is acting illegally until which time he gets that filed. The deadline was Monday afternoon, which was yesterday. There was a request from Mr. Vasquez's attorney to give him until Friday to file that paperwork on behalf of Mr. Vasquez. And we compromised to give him until Wednesday because we understand his attorney has some pressing issues he has to get to. So we compromised by giving him until Wednesday.
When was that application actually due to be filed?
It's due to be filed as soon as the orders was passed.
That was in April, wasn't
That
it?
was in April.
So we are giving him, he's already late in turning it in. And we said Monday was your deadline. So now we're going to compromise and say Wednesday. So if he doesn't turn it in by tomorrow, then what is our next step legally? What can we do? Can we, and I mean, I'm envisioning, you know, removing all of his things off the beach. I don't want to do that. But, I mean, really, what is our next step then? I mean, if he's not going to follow our ordinances, what's our next step come Wednesday afternoon?
First thing Thursday morning, should we not get an application, then the police department will once again be instructed to file a citation to Mr. Vasquez. The copy which reported over the attorney.
And so he basically could continue to, and it's the same thing, keep his t-shirt hut open and pay the daily fine, or keep his beach vendor business open and pay the daily fine until who knows when.
Well, as time goes on, of course, the fine increases to a point where it doesn't make any financial sense to do that.
Well, so do you, between, who, you'll make the decision as to what the fine will be initially? Or do you have to start at $50, or can you start at $300 since it was due in April and nothing's happened in 3 months?
I think it's appropriate to be consistent. Normally, you start at the lower end.
I would agree.
And so every day you increase it? Or is it $50 for a month and a half or 2 months until the season is over? Or what? I don't know. Because this has nothing to do with the injunction of leave no trace. So they're two different scenarios. So normally, do you have the $50 day one, $75 day two, and up and up and up? Or do you keep the $50 for a length of time and then you decide to move it up? I don't know what the
That's up to
protocol
you.
is.
There's really no standard by which you do that. But again, because the attorneys have had discussions,
Okay.
I'd like to think that their
They will-
recommendation will prevail and get
Okay.
this done for us, because I've impressed upon the importance of getting this done because we've been dilly down the long way too long.
Okay, so Nick and Cole will take care of this. Okay. All right.
You
And-
done, Mr. Lance?
No, I'm just
You wanna-
concerned
nope,
about,
nope. Chief, you're up.
Yes, sir, thank you, council. During the past week and the past weekend, we had the fishing event. And from my understanding, the tournament had higher teams this year than it had done in the past. We had no major incidents. My understanding, we had 66 teams enter, and that's up from 34 teams of last year.
wow.
So compliments to the city on that one, and again, the officers that were out there, we had no reported incidents. Our calls for service this time last year were 34. So far, we're at 66, so obviously the city's still in growth mode. Over the past 7 days, we've had trespass warnings, a number of marijuana drug arrests. We did have a theft report of an individual that lost his wallet. Come to find out, the property was left unattended on the beach. So unfortunately, we'll do the best we can, due diligence, but with no surveillance or anybody watching the property, it's kind of hard to come up with something, which is unfortunate. We did have a domestic battery arrest. From my understandings of the follow-up from that, this has been an ongoing incident. There is another state where the individual has a probation, so I'm more than likely sure that that would be in violation. Other than that, we've had a few other parking issues, but again, that goes with the increase of the tourists and the people visiting our city. But we've had no major incidents to report of an issue. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Questions for the chief?
Yes, sir. The 4th is coming up before I believe we have another meeting. How are we prepared for that? Are we in good shape? What do we expect?
Obviously, each year the increase, 4th is one of the larger population growths that we have for visiting. It is a midweek, so we anticipate a long week. Every officer, to include all the reserves, will be working. We have some officers that'll be here at 6 in the morning because we also have a run first thing in the morning also. It starts, I believe, around 6 a.m. And then from my understanding, the firework event is 9:30, I think, for the firework. 8:30? Thank you. So, but all personnel will be here. We'll have our day shifts, but we're anticipating all the officers working. And the only other one thing I do add, Miss Laura's retirement is coming up on the 3rd of July. We are having a luncheon for her this coming Thursday from 12 to 2. So if you're in the neighborhood, I appreciate that you'd come by. We are doing it at the Fish House. They're doing a few things for the officers as well as Miss Laura. So that is from 12 to 2 this coming Thursday.
As you guys know, we met with the county, and at their last meeting, they discussed the option of taking over fire protection was not going to happen. Their ISO rating's a 3. They just went to, we foresee going to a 6, and their assessment was they would need 27 firefighters, another station, and a $1 million ladder truck to cover that. So it's pretty clear they don't want to do that. So we're going to continue forward like we are. I foresee us coming back at a 6 with preliminary discussions with Mr. Caballona with ISO. Other than that, everyone's started. We're still short one position. We've filled 5 full-timers. I'm currently backfilling the other position with part-timers, so my schedule is sporadic. We had other applicants, but we chose to turn them down based on previous job history or other things. So we're still looking to fill that other position, but we'll keep it filled with part-timers and myself until we fill that final position. But ISO is aware, and it's not going to affect our rating with them. So the station's almost finished. We're waiting on some kitchen cabinets and a few more things. The stucco was repaired where we tore off the building, if you guys go by there, and we're waiting on the final exterior paint. And then at that point, we'll talk to our sign company about getting an actual sign up there that matches our current city logo, maybe put fire department below it. But other than that, things are looking on track.
Questions? Any more? Public Works Director?
Alrighty, about the only thing I want to touch on is the fish cleaning station, that we installed in our float ramp. Want to say that as of this point, the fish cleaning station and the cooler has worked better than we could have imagined. We don't have fish floating all over the place in the canal, we don't have fish on the side roads, so I think it was a home run, absolutely. The issue that we are facing down there is, we're trying to come up with a different solution on how to store and then dispose of the fish. The totes that we have down there, it's taking 3 to 4 guys to pick up a single tote. Not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before that, it took 9 people altogether to go down and get it all cleaned up. It takes general maintenance roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day to keep it clean. I think this is well worth the effort. I truly believe that it's well worth the effort that we're putting forth and the cost that it took to make this. But we're going to try to come up, we're working on coming up with a better way for the staff to handle how to store and then dispose of. We got a few ideas floating out there. Once we have something solid, we'll come back to the council and let you guys know. But just want to let everybody know that we're struggling to keep it clean, but you know we're gonna keep pushing forward with it and come up with a different plan.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
No, let me leave it.
I've been asked if it would be possible for us to come up with some kind of a presentation down there where people could put their fish up on the wall and have Mexico Beach or whatever.
That would be very easy to do.
Well done, professionally lettered and all that. CDC might want to help us. And that would, because everybody that comes that catches fish wants their picture made. And if we could do that in such a way that would promote Mexico Beach and the Welcome Center and everybody else that lives here, I think it would be good.
Everything we do, we try to do top notch, so this would be no different.
Okay.
And you're an artist, Jerry.
Yeah.
So maybe you could have your hand into designing this.
Well, I've made suggestions to some people in town that didn't have much interest in listening to me again.
Well, one of our employees actually has a vinyl cutting machine that can cut out whatever you want.
Okay.
A sign or anything like that.
Yeah, all right.
Phil, one time when we were talking about the fish cleaning tables. And is one going to be enough? How does that appear we're doing? Are we going to need an additional table?
I haven't, nor have Tommy or Ken, who are down there every single day in the cleaning area. We haven't received any complaints or any requests for another set of tables. I think it's inevitable. I really do. We only continue to grow and get bigger, and our tournaments continue to grow and get more popular. So right now, I would say no. Once we figure out a better way to
take
store
care
these
of it.
things and dispose of them, I think it would be wise. I mean, it's only going to make it better.
Yeah.
To install another table or two.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Any comments from Public Works? Mr. Clerk?
Usually I'm brief, but I had a productive meeting actually and got a lot of emailing done while I was here. July 9th at 9 a.m. is your first budget hearing. There will not be another regular council meeting before that date. That is 1 week from Monday at 9 a.m. The meeting for tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. regarding the fire assessment has been posted. It's already been distributed. It's already up. I got an email also while we were here that the audit has been complete. I haven't seen it yet, but it should be here today. And on the July 10th meeting, besides the fire assessment, there will also be, related but unrelated, a contract with Bay County to collect the unpaid assessments. So it's a non-ad valorem assessment resolution we need to pass that says that they're going to collect it for us, and they need that done at the 10th. That's for the ones that are past due. They'll record them on the bill that way. And in preparation for tomorrow's evening, I have an appointment this afternoon and won't be in the office, but send me an email if you have any questions or need any information for tomorrow, and I'll get it to you. And that's all I have.
I have a question regarding that, and help me out with the sunshine law. Al, you mentioned that you have some ideas about this assessment. Is it legal if Al would email all of us his ideas so that we have a chance to look them over before we meet tomorrow night, rather than just seeing them tomorrow night and having to make a decision right then?
Well, they're very simple. I don't think it's something that you're gonna spend much time studying.
Okay.
There's just a different approach.
Okay.
Oh, it'd be lovely to see them so we can have our opinions on them too. I agree, but
Just keep
whatever.
in mind that if you get an email from the mayor,
You can't
We don't
respond.
respond.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Well, we're meeting tomorrow night,
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Now, did you post it as a meeting or as a workshop?
It is posted as a special city council fire assessment meeting.
Good. Okay. Any other?
That's it for me.
I got one thing to add, if I may. With the upcoming firework event on the 4th of July, there will be a fallout area marked off on the beach. We will put do not cross barrier tape down there for the public safety.
We don't know that yet, Chief.
We don't know? I thought we were going to go ahead and mark it up because.
Still waiting on a report from the engineer.
Okay. All right, that was what I was going to ask. But if not, I'll still have officers on the beach because there is a northeast wind predicted according to the projected wind So my concern would be the directions of the fireworks coming back. So if it does get to be that point, we will mark it. So we'll look to get on that.
We'll take care of it. Public Works, mark it off.
Fantastic. All right, thank you.
Thank you. City Administrator's next.
Just a couple of things, Ron. Number one, everybody's got to know that fireworks are illegal. But yet, we have a lot of fireworks going off at all places around the city, at all hours of the evening. Most people are pretty good about shutting off about 10 o'clock, but some don't. But as we indicated from the police department, we're gonna have all hands on deck on July 4th. And we simply can't respond to every complaint about fireworks. The best we can do is just simply contain it. If we had the manpower, we put it out there, but we only got what we got. The other item, of course, we had our employee of the quarter luncheon last week. And usually I announce the employee of the quarter winner at these meetings, and today's no exception. Sometimes when you place people in certain positions, it just is not a right fit. And this is a classic case where when you put them where they can flourish, they do an excellent job. And so the vote winner, the vote of the city employees, was Madison Kennington. And so he, of course, got his extra day off with pay and $800 from the city in gratitude for the job he's done since he's changed to a different position. That's all I have.
Question? Yes.
Two things. One, real fast. On behalf of Golly Whopper, I want to thank the Mexico Beach Police Department for all of their help and efforts with the traffic control. So thank you so much. With regards to the fireworks, I have a board member here. I'm sure she'll agree with letting me do this, but we can create rack cards that we can distribute out to all of our vacation rental agencies as well as businesses stating the rules regarding fireworks and how they are not permitted on the beaches of Mexico Beach. And we can get those out before the 4th if that, actually I have 2 board members. If that would be willing, it would be something I can get with Mel, making sure the language is appropriate, and we can distribute those out to help get that notice out there, just like we do with the Leave No Trace, if that is something that the council would like.
I don't think it'll hurt anything.
I don't
Okay.
think so either.
All right, well then I will get with Mel on making sure that the language is appropriate and meets what it's supposed to state, and we can get those printed and distributed out before the 1st of next week. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I see a couple hands.
Lisa Logan, I think that's a great idea that Kimberly had, and I would love to see the CDC help spread the word about the fireworks. Is if it's at all possible to add those cards to all of the rental houses that are in our residential sections, like out in my neighborhood, because every year I battle with people who are shooting fireworks. They end up in my yard, they shoot the rockets off. And folks, it's dry out there. Look what just happened at East Point. We do not want that, and I battle it on my street every year. And I always call the police every year because there's so many going on. So if those rack cards could be distributed to all of the bed tax people who are in our residential neighborhoods, that would help enormously. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Me again, Alicia Mosley. To piggyback off what Kimberly said, I love that. So I sit on the board as president of the HOA for Tranquil Harbor. And I can absolutely get on board with what you're doing. Maybe we can also get some of the other presidents of other HOA boards for the condominiums. I know our unit has 36. That gets to a lot of people news fast. If we can get other people on board with what she is saying, then we could really put a footprint on getting that notice out to the people, and the majority of the renters rent out those condominiums, especially at the Tranquil Harbor, because we are right across from the pier. So I'm happy to also contribute and work with Kimberly on this adventure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any announcements? Motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.